Hi, I'm Valia Glitzes.
And I'm Terry Getz, and we are Speak Your Truth, Change Your Life Story. And Valia and I were sitting together putting more finishing touches on our work for our event, Speak Your Truth, Change Your Life Story, and we thought, why not shoot a video series? Because actually what came up for us was a lot of content, and we just felt like we could make a bigger impact for people who maybe couldn't make the event, or to introduce people to us so that you could get a better flavor for what to expect at the event. And the video series is really to help educate you on why your story is so important.
When you think about the word story, and we ask our clients this all the time, what comes up for you? The answers that we usually get are something about, I have a networking event to go to, so I need to think about what to say to people, or I need to rewrite my resume for the 20th time, or I'm catching up with a contact who I haven't seen in a while, and it's so often outward facing when we think about the story, and it's so often who do I need to be to show up for that particular event or for that particular phase in my life. And Terry and I were thinking and comparing notes and saying, hold on a second, what if women were to take more ownership of their story? What if they were to actually become the author of their story? And how much we underestimate the impact of what your story actually has on your life.
Yeah, I mean, and it's true that when you say your story to different people, you say it in a different way. So if you're talking to a friend or a loved one, it's one way. If you're talking to a business colleague, it's another. So I think that it's part of the face that we put on. And one of the things we do is we make a lot of excuses. And you'll see in some of our materials we talk about what's your excuse. And we all have them. Excuses are really just kind of they disguise themselves as reasons, and we think that the reasons we stop are very valid, and we'll explain in a little bit why we think that's true, but those excuses are what back up the story of where we stop in our lives. And look, I know that we're intelligent women, right? We all do it, but we all end up kind of spinning our wheels if we don't really examine this piece. So we struggle to make change in our lives over and over and over again, sometimes for years, to try and we don't know why the change is not happening, right?
So, and we talk about this all the time. I mean, Terry and I both share our passion for coaching and really helping women, but we come from different aspects, different sides of the spectrum of the coaching experience. I'm from the leadership development world, Terry's from the women's transformation world, and I'd say one of the parallels that we see continuously is women not even being afraid. I think sometimes fear of stepping into their story, other times not even knowing, which scares us even more, right? Sort of this subconscious, my story is just happening and I'm a passive bystander. And so much of our work on personal branding and power and really leadership across all aspects of life come from owning that story and telling it in a different way. And that's why we were so excited to bring this video series, to bring this event together, to give women an opportunity to look at their story in a way I think they've probably never looked at to this point in their lives.
Right. I mean, in fact, sometimes we don't look at it at all because we think of it a little bit as a luxury, right? And one of the problems with I guess, not making the effort, so to speak, to change the story is because the pain of not changing it is somewhere in the future. Because right now, we're doing okay, right? Our lives are pretty good. We're pretty successful in most areas of our lives. But until you start to really pay attention to the story that's getting put out there, either inside your head or actually with the words that you say or the actions that you take, you're not going to reach your full empowerment. You're not going to be able to do the things that you dream about doing because we stop ourselves all the time. So why rewrite your story? Because that will empower you. That is really the key to changing your life, right? So we were creating this 3-part video series based on the 3 parts that we think are what are most important to creating the story, that both impact your story and are impacted by your story, and that's your mind, body, and spirit. Right, so.
And I think people hear those 3 phrases all the time, right?
Yeah.
We say mind, body, spirit, mind, body classes. And what we want to share with you is we mean this, we really are talking about unpacking this and looking at this in a very literal and also metaphorical way, but we mean to take action towards this. We're not just throwing out these words. We're really saying, how do these mind, body, spirit components in an integrated way actually affect your story? And if we don't do anything about these 3 components or only tackle one, which we always do, we always tackle the mind because that's the easiest, or what we're programmed to do, how you miss two really important dimensions of what your experience is.
Right.
So in this 3-part video series, we will have 3 videos. Today we're going to focus on the mind, and then next time body, and then spirit, to allow you an opportunity to really look at these dimensions, to play with it, to give you some tools, and to plant the seeds for those of you who are ready to really take it to the next level of rewriting your story.
Yeah. And often we don't really realize that the story we tell is not our own story.
Yes.
We're kind of on autopilot. We don't really know what it means to change our life story because we're all so busy, right? So we're getting our lives pulled together. We're going out to work. We're taking care of our loved ones. We have relationships, and who has the time? We think it's sort of a luxurious thing to sit down and really reflect on your story. But the truth is, until you do, you're not necessarily living your story. You're living a story that you inherited from your parents, and from who inherited it from their parents, and from other loved ones and important people in our lives when we were kids. Because really, if you're not paying attention to your values and to the things that were basically dumped into your subconscious when you were a little kid, and I might as well talk about that, because our subconscious is a very, very powerful part of us, and it really is running the show. And it's very insidious, and we're not aware of it 90% of the time. It's the part of you that drives the car without thinking about it, but it's also the part of you that picked up these nuggets when you were a child of often not good enough, not worthy, or a lot of shame, or a lot of fears. And that got dumped into your subconscious before you had tools and discernment and awareness and consciousness to be able to reject or accept any of that. So it's just become kind of part of you. And it's also where your emotions reside. So it's a really, until you address that story that was laid out for you when you were younger and that you took on, you're just going to keep repeating the same thing over and over and over again. And really what we want to do is raise your awareness about what the truth is for you, what the story is for you, what is your authentic story, what is your authentic self, and who are you? And all of that sounds like a lot of language around kind of what's being talked about lately, but it's just so key. It is the key to making the change, and it's the key to empowering your life and empowering yourself.
Mm-hmm. And I think so many times when people hear this word consciousness, it just sounds so big. It sounds so heavy. Oh, well, that's not me, or I'm not at that place. And like Terry said, consciousness just bubbles down into a basic form of awareness, of showing up in your life as an agent in your life, not just as a standby. And I think that when you can think about what that actually means, what the ripple effect of that would be, to show up as an agent, to start crafting your story, to be the author of it, really powerful impact. And we've seen women sort of at all phases of the journey, and just to see it when someone has the courage to look inside, and yes, it's a luxury, like Terry was saying, it's also pretty damn scary.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty scary to look underneath and say, what's really going on, and can I even change it? We get that a lot. And I think what we're here to tell you with full confidence is not only can you, but if you don't, your story is being told and you're living someone else's. It's not yours, whether it's the subconscious, whether it's the story of parents or...
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's really an inherited belief system, right? So if we're living someone else's belief system without really analyzing it, we're not really living our life, right? So one of the things that I always talk about is, and a great tool to address all of this, is how your thoughts affect your story and your whole life, right? So we spend so much time talking about the effect and why we are where we are. So we see a problem, we see this effect, and we keep hammering at the effect, trying to make a change. And the problem is we keep trying harder, longer, different tactics, and it's really not making an impact. And the reason it's not is because you're not looking at the cause. And one of the causes is often your thoughts, that story that you're telling yourself when no one else is listening. And it's, again, you hear a lot about positive thinking and all of that, but we're talking about really looking at where those thoughts are coming from, really analyzing those belief systems. But it can be as simple as walking into a job interview with the thought of, I don't look good today, and you start to preach that story without words to the person that you're say being interviewed by. Or you go on a date with somebody and you're not feeling very confident. That also comes through. Our stories come through wordlessly, not just in what we say, but in what we don't say.
And I think if there's one tool to pull from that. It's the power of language, and also maybe the silence when language isn't there,
Yeah.
which is exactly what you were saying. The words that we use have energy, and it impacts the reactions that we get, the actions that we get, the opportunities. I can't tell you how many clients, when they start changing the words that they use, all of a sudden the next week they'll be like, oh my gosh, you'll never believe it.
Yeah.
Something will come their way because they clear up that space and start talking about things differently. And like you were saying before, what's not said and what is going on underneath in the subconscious with these thought patterns, and being courageous enough to put words to those,
Yes.
to identify them, to pinpoint them. That's part of diffusing the energy and allowing space for something
Right.
else.
Right, because if you don't address that, then you know, it's so interesting. There's a lot of research out there now that's showing that people are reacting to your thoughts. That really, we talk a lot about how thoughts have energy, but our thoughts also affect other people's brains. How crazy is that? So they're really proving that that's so now. And they find that when you're having, say, a judgmental thought about the person you're sitting with, but you're not saying it out loud, or judging yourself, that person on a certain level doesn't trust you. They're not really sure why. It's this kind of wordless communication that's going on between two people. So starting to really think about the way you speak to yourself, which will then change your emotions and the way you feel, which will then change your actions, is hugely important. So the tool, I guess, the big takeaway for today is start looking at your thoughts, because they are creating your emotions, and we always act based on our emotions. And you can guarantee that if you're in an emotional state, you are in your subconscious. So you're in your old story, and you're in the inherited story, and probably not your true story, and certainly not in your empowerment.
Yeah, and I would say one of the ways to catch yourself, if you feel like you're consciously and sort of consistently in the doing, you're like, let me do more, push harder,
Yeah.
just work more, you're in that default pattern. So bring awareness to that. Think about the consciousness and the awareness that we spoke about in this video, and identify it. What thought is driving me right now? Is that an old belief? Where did that come from? Just play with it.
Yeah.
Right? Just have an experience with it. You will be shocked at the insights that you get.
Yeah, and that'll stop you from being on autopilot so much, right? It's from the ability to drive your own car consciously instead of just getting in, turning the key, and taking off for the day. So one of the ways that you can stop being on autopilot is to take advantage of different opportunities. And of course, we're presenting another opportunity for you to speak your truth and change your life story. And we invite you to take a look at our website, which is www.changeyourlifestorynow.com, and just peruse, see if it's right for you, see if it's interesting to you, and if it is, pop your name and phone number, and email in the box, and we're going to give you a call. And don't be scared that we're going to call you, all right? It's just a 10-minute phone call where we're just going to get to know you for a couple of minutes, and you'll get to know us for a few minutes, and you'll see if it's the right fit. This is an intimate event. It's a beautiful event. It's a 3-day, 2-night personal and professional development intensive at a beautiful destination retreat in the Poconos.
Yes. The dates, I was just thinking, 18th through the 20th of October. So next month it's a Friday through Sunday. And really, I think an immersive experience. If there's one thing that we've learned from both of our coaching worlds, it's there's something powerful that happens when you can leave your everyday behind and physically transport yourself to a different place to really have the courage and the luxury, like Terry was saying, of these conversations, of looking at these really complex and simple sounding but quite profound ways of looking at your story and rewriting it. So that's what we'd love to invite you to.
To change the cause.
Yes, to change the cause.
To
Absolutely.
change the effect. So we look forward to seeing you on the next video where we're going to be talking about how your story affects your body. So go to our website, changeyourlifestorynow.com.